It's very lovely on a drizzly autumnal morning to be met at the gate by one of your little pals. You alright, Rusty? Should we go and have a cuddle? Come on then. Come on, buddy. Come on. He'll follow in a second. Ah, yes, it's a very drizzly day. And it's very soggy underfoot. But that's not going to spoil our fun. Look, it's autumn. Come on, slow coach. Come on. Oh, you're tardy this morning, Rusty. Come on. Yeah, attaboy. Giddy up, Rusty. Whoopsie, giddy up, it's wet. Oh, morning, Poppy. Right, that'll giddy him up. Let's get in this shed and get dry. My feet are already sopping just through walking through the wet grass. Right, come on, kitty cats, out the way. Chop, chop. What a lovely way to start the day though, eh? To be flanked and giddied along by the gorgeous little kitty cats. Whee! There goes our Poppy. Where's Rusty? Where's Rosie? Ah, there we go. Home sweet home. Let's get our wellies on and get our feet dry. Right, well, now that the cats are installed and happy, I can say a proper good morning to you lovely people. How are you all today? I hope you're well. Wow, what a contrast to just, 3 days ago, was it? I've lost track of time. But in the last video you saw, that was at the weekend, we were bathed in beautiful sunshine. Most of us were out working in shorts and short sleeve tops. It was gorgeous. Today it finally feels like autumn. Everything, all my senses, I can feel the change. The light is a little bit darker, a little bit murkier. The sounds are different. I can't quite explain that. It's just kind of a muffle. The smell of rich, damp earth and soggy leaves. Oh, it's a gorgeous, deep, rich, dark brown smells of autumn. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. And on my skin I can feel that, you know, it's slightly colder in the air and it's definitely drizzly this morning. So, it wasn't supposed to be. We weren't supposed to have any rain or any kind of wet stuff today. But as you see, my feet are soaking wet. Fortunately, I keep spare socks in the shed. I keep my welly socks, so I shall get changed in a minute and get to work. Last time I saw you, I was emptying the compost bins and basically mooching around with my mates, which is lovely, but I need to crack on. So the jobs for today are to plant the garlic and plant the broad bean seeds, which I saved from... Oh, I'm an idiot! I've just realised something. I have got my saved broad bean seeds that I saved from earlier in the year, but someone also sent me some to try, and at the weekend I took all my seed boxes home so that I could have a good sort through, look to see if there was any to give away, look to see where I had gaps, etc. So I've left those at home. So I need to leave a little bit of space in the end of one of the rows for these purple ones I'm going to try. Anyway, so yes, that's the jobs for today. Before I even start those, what I'm going to do is get out onto both those beds and just give them a little bit of a bash with the cultivator now that we've had all this rain. And that was the whole idea of leaving the garden alone for a couple of days, is let the rain take the strain. You'll have seen by now, over the last 18 months, how my soil here, same for all of us, even those who've been conditioning their soil for 30 odd years, it gets so compact and it just turns to concrete. So the stage those beds are at the moment is they were just broken up somewhat. let the rain get in, and now I can go over them with my lovely, I was mentioning this the other day, I'm trying to do it without terrifying the puss cats, have this gorgeous, you're right Rusty, this lovely little 3-pronged cultivator, so I just kind of stab at the soil a bit with that, rake it a little bit too, just get it broken down so it's a little bit fine for planting in. And what I love about this tool is, as I was mentioning, it used to belong to our lovely friend Paddy, who died a couple of years ago. But I don't know if you can see on the handle, can you see how it's slightly worn there? That's from where his hand has held the handle over the years. So whenever I hold the handle, I just feel a little bit of Paddy there. It's so lovely. I mean, I love old stuff anyway. I love anything that's already got a story. But when you know the story and you know the person, it makes it even more special. So, with a little help from Paddy this morning, I'm going to go and get those beds prepped while we're in the drizzle. And hopefully the drizzle will stop enough so that I can show you some planting and sowing shortly. Time to get my wellies on. Just thought I'd show you how I'm preparing the broad bean bed briefly, because it really is a wet, drizzly morning and I don't want to wreck my camera. So, if you remember a few days ago, I dug out the old path and it was still in quite big clumps. And then over the weekend, I literally just came and tipped onto here, I think you can probably make that out, the slightly more rotted compost from my round bin. Literally just dumped it, spread it out a bit, and then all I'm doing this morning is just giving it a bit of a tickle in. So you can see I've just been tickling it in there. Not too much, and there are still some, there's still some chunky bits in here, but I'm not going to worry about those because over time they'll rot. What's great is just giving it a bit of a tickle this morning, having left it here, 2-3 days ago. Tons of worms having an absolute field day in it. So yeah, get it tickled in, just rake it over a little bit just so I can sort of see my lines to plant my seeds, and then we'll be away. It's quite interesting how I've sort of changed over the last 2 or 3 years. I used to be really finicky about having all my soil clean, you know. You see these bits of cardboard, they were part of the path that it's disintegrated, and I'd be picking those up and putting them in the compost and really concerning myself with every little leaf and twig left on the surface of the soil. How stupid was that? But in those days I was such a neat freak and wasn't really thinking straight. These days it all just gets left and turned in, and yep, let the worms do their business. Right, it's really starting to come down now, so I'm going to put you guys back in the shed where it's nice and cosy and dry, and now I'll carry on tickling this in, get it, whoops, that's me brushing a spider off my arm, get this raked over and get ready to sow some broad beans. I've come back in the shed for a moment to just talk about the broad beans, because it's not chucking with rain, but it's just this fine drizzle that won't stop. It's not enough to stop the work, it's actually quite pleasant, but just in terms of putting the camera out there, I might have to put a brolly up over you guys. Anyway, so I, for the last 2-3 years now, have sown my broad beans in the autumn. I used to sow them in the spring, and then I changed, and I'm so glad I did. There's a number of reasons. One, the ground is empty. The ground is empty in winter, so it might as well have something in there. Stop licking my arm, you're distracting me. It might as well have something in the ground over winter, because that's helping to protect the soil from sort of, the pounding of the rain, because that really compacts my soil. Obviously the roots of the plant are helping to keep the soil open, so that's great. Yeah, so otherwise that would be an empty bed over the winter, so let's get it going. But one of my main reasons for doing them in the autumn is because then I get a much earlier crop. So hopefully you will have seen earlier this year, I think it was about the end of May, beginning of June, I had the lot out. I was having my first few picks at the beginning of May. by the end of May they were all out and either eaten or frozen. Still got loads in the freezer. And then I can get another crop in. So if, like me, you've only got a small amount of space and you're trying to feed yourself, think about getting some broad beans in the next week or so, because then come next June, you can start something maybe in pots in your cold frame like I do with the Coco de Paimpol, so that when the beans come out, you can quickly get another crop in there. Yay! So the variety I'm growing, I can't show you a packet because I might, well I can show you a packet. This is, let me see if it's not treats. Let's see if I can give you a little look. This is Aqua Dolce. Now, this is actually super Aqua Dolce. The Aqua Dolce you probably see at your garden centre. You'll see Aqua Dolce Claudia. Same kind of parents originally. Aqua Dolce is specifically good for sowing in the autumn. Some of them do check your packets because some of them won't tolerate the winter. So what I'll do is I'll get these sown and then I will cover the beds. So this is something I discovered by accident 2 years ago. Whenever I've freshly planted anything or freshly tilled the soil, the foxes see it as an invitation to play. I think the thinking is that the fox sees freshly disturbed soil is that there's probably a kill in there somewhere. So they go digging it up to try and find another fox's kill. So I've always, whenever I plant anything new, I always cover it in some way or other. And what I did with my broad beans a couple of years ago is I covered it in Enviromesh, literally to stop the foxes. But I think it also just kept the worst of the frost off them, so that they carried on growing pretty much all winter. The idea with planting them now is there's still just enough warmth in the soil and enough daylight hours to encourage them to germinate, because we want them to germinate now. They'll get going away, they'll maybe get to sort of 3 inches or so by the end of November hopefully, and then they'll it'll feel like they've stopped growing over the winter. Don't worry. And then towards the end of January into February, as the days start to get a little bit longer, as the temperature starts to come up a little bit, they'll start to grow again. And then by the end of March, beginning of April, boom, big spurt. And you might even have flowers on them like I did this year by the end of March. Crazy. So that's why I sow my broad beans in the autumn. I've got empty space and I get an early crop, which means I can get a second crop in the following year. So if you haven't tried it before and you've got a bit of space in the garden, give it a go. Right, time to brave the drizzle again. It's a good job I don't have curly hair, isn't it? Otherwise I'll be frizztastic today. Right, I'm going to get a piece of string to make a straight line and get these seeds where they belong, which is in that gorgeous soil. Are you all okay under there? I wish you could see what I can see. You're all sitting on one of my chairs under a brolly. Okay, spacing for the broad beans. I'm really naughty. I ignore the rule books. I plant them in rows. The rows are about 25 centimetres apart. So I'll get 4 rows in this new bed, and all my new perma beds are going to be about a metre or so wide, so I can manage them from both sides without actually having to stand on them. Yay! Now, the rule books, the packets, etc. would say for each double row, leave a metre between your next double row. That's crazy. I am not giving up a metre of my precious space. Maybe that was once upon a time in the days when a tractor had to go down. I don't know, but I certainly don't. And then in terms of actual planting, I pop them down about 5 centimetres. Sorry, can you hear me under there with the rain? 5 centimetres. So gently dib a hole, pop it in. In terms of spacing within the row, it's about an octave apart. For those of you who don't play piano, I would say that's about 15 centimetres, about 7 or 8 inches or so. So yeah, if you would prefer to do it by the rule book and leave a metre between your double rows, go for it. I've done it this way for the last 2 or 3 years and I've had fantastic harvests. So, you know, it was a bit of an experiment the first time doing them so closely. It worked, so I carry on doing it. And you know what? Okay, so we've got this rain today, but it's an absolutely gorgeous, almost perfect day to be getting on with things out here because it's not cold, not too cold. It's quiet. The ground is just perfect to work with at the moment. If you've got really heavy compacted soil like me, you know, it's worth getting out there before rain. Just clump it up a bit, break it up a bit, let the rain get in, and then do its gorgeous magic softening. Brilliant. Excuse my funny voice, I'm bent double, obviously. Where was that last one? Did I put one in there? Oh, well, we'll have 2 for luck. So yeah, just, you know, even if it's a little bit drizzly like today, don't let it put you off. Go and enjoy your beautiful outside space. I never used to bother with marking my rows with string like this. But I used to find by the time I got to the end of a row, I'd sort of gone round corners, so I do mark now. And the other great thing about this ground being beautifully moist, that will give the seeds a really nice start. Because if you think how dry they are, so they're going into moist soil that's relatively still quite warm, they should be really happy. And now I just have to be patient and not check on them every single day for signs of life. And also, I'm hoping getting all that compost in will also help in terms of the follow-on crop next year, which will be the coco de Paimpol. Obviously, when these do come out, I will top dress with a load more chicken fertiliser, but at least this this compost will give this lot a good start and hopefully carry on being good for the cocoa. I think I'm going to put you guys in the shed with a cup of tea. You probably can't even see it, can you? Can you hear it there? Yeah, let's go and get you guys all nice and snug and warm in the shed. For now, I've put some small net tunnels over the broad beans I've just sown. In time, I'll put a much bigger hoop arrangement over them, cover them with some enviromesh once I start taking nets off the brassicas, which won't be too long now because I didn't see any cabbage white butterflies on Saturday when it was warm. Obviously I haven't seen any today because it's chucking down. I'll give it another couple of weeks, and if I don't see any, I'll assume they've disappeared for now. Oh, I was going to cross my boots is so weighed down with mud. I am filthy muddy, but I love it. It's great. And what's great, I'm just going to in a second talk about garlic in this shed rather than out in the pouring rain. But I think what's going to work really, really, really well with these beds I'm so pleased already because I was just prepping the garlic bed. I can reach right into the middle from both sides. It's going to take a while for me to get used to sort of digging from this side instead of starting at the top and coming backwards. But in theory, once I've got everything repositioned, I should never, ever, ever have to stand on any of my beds ever again. Yay! And I'll be able to concentrate, compost into the right area and all those things. So I think it's going to work a treat. Right, well, I've just finished prepping the garlic bed. I've actually just forked it over again. I was going to use the cultivator, Paddy's cultivator, but actually some of those chunks are still really quite big and gnarly. But this rain is the perfect time to do it. So it's broken down really nicely. I did also, a few days ago, whenever it was, I scattered a load of chicken pellets. So of course the rain has now softened them and that's starting to disperse. So it's all tickled in, ready for the beautiful garlic. So here's one of my, I just started to peel it and then I thought, oh no, I'll stop and show you. This is one of the ones I grew. So it was planted this time last year. This is the Violette I brought back from France. They're much bigger than when I brought it back from France. It was much bigger than this. But garlic on this site is generally pretty rubbish, so I'm glad to get anything. Obviously I'm still using them at home, but I've kept a handful back for sowing today. So when you've got your whole bulb like that, the reason I'm saying this, for most of you, I know that you will know this, but a couple of people have been asking me about how do we plant garlic. Do I plant the whole bulb? No. So basically, split it into its constituent parts of cloves. Just split it apart with your fingers and you'll end up with, of varying sizes, hang on a tick, let me just get that last end bit off. Oh, it's tough to get out. They've stored really well, these Violette. No sign of shooting, and oh gosh, that smell is beautiful. They taste great. So then you'll end up with your cloves like that. They'll have their bits of paper on. Don't even worry about that. Just plant the whole thing. So then when it comes to planting, where that bulb has been, that was the bottom of the bulb. So you've got the bottom of the clove and then the tip. So from here, this is where your beautiful green sprout is going to come from, hopefully, actually within a matter of days, probably, because it is warm still. And then that is where your beautiful roots are going to come from. So we want to be careful and a little bit precious about here, because we don't want to be jamming it in the soil, ramming it in into hard compact soil or against rocks and things like that, because we don't want to damage it. So in a sec I'm going to get out there and plant them. I'm going to put you guys under the brolly again, I think. But just to say, when I plant my garlic, I always dib a hole for them to pop it in, so I'm not pushing against that delicate little area there. I mean, it's not delicate as in, it's not bone china, but that's the business end to start with. That'll be the business end later. So I don't want to damage it, so I always dip my hole. And I generally plant mine about a good 5 inches deep. The last thing I want to do is leave a little bit sticking out of the top, because the pigeons will come along and think, worm, yank it out. So yeah, they'll go 5 inches deep. But never mind chatting about it. Let's go and get on with doing it. After I've separated out all my bulbs into individual cloves first. Right, you lovely lot. Let's get them in. Good and deep. You know, even though it hasn't stopped raining all day, I just love days like today. I suppose part of it is because I'm planting again. It's almost like spring. I think it's that combination of having time at this time of year to nourish the soil, to replenish things, to have that bit of a tidy up. But not only are there still loads of things growing, but we're putting in things to start growing. So there will be beautiful new green shoots to look at. Oh, quite possibly in a matter of days. So yeah, even if the weather's a bit inclement, I mean obviously it's not lashing with rain today, it's drizzle, but even if your weather's a bit inclement, go on, treat yourself to a day in the garden, or at least a morning or an afternoon in the garden. You'll be amazed how much you can get done. And then that evening, as you're sitting back in a hot tub, perhaps with a glass in your hand, you can reflect on the lovely day you had in the garden, all the little jobs you got done, or maybe not even got jobs done, but just enjoyed being out in the open air, listening to the birds, observing the insects. There's still so much life and colour in the garden. I love it. Oops, it's stuck to my glove. Yeah, everything's getting a little bit muddy and sticky now. But I don't care. Mud is good. Oh, that should be on my t-shirt. Mud is good. So quiet. When I've got all of these in, I'll put nets on, again just to deter the foxes. Then once they start shooting through, I will, well when it's dry again, I'll do another mow and use clippings to mulch them. And then come this spring, well about May, June time when these come out, the flint corn will be going in here. So I can either simply plant through the mulch, or if it's, you know, if needs be, I can sort of tickle it in. But I'm hoping with my new bed system that I can just sort of mulch, compost, tickle, and that's it. No more heavy digging for my poor old knees. Good. Next row. Be time for a cup of tea soon. I'm so delighted with today's little session. So that's about 3.5 hours. Again, another one of my little chunks. But I've managed to get those 2 beds properly sort of dug over, composted, tilthed, what have you, and new crops in the ground, plus a few other little bits and bobs here and there. It's been a bit of a bonkers day doing it in the rain, but it's like I said when I was planting the garlic, it's so lovely, it's quiet, the birds are singing, I'm working close up with the soil, it's heaving, absolutely teeming with life that's coming out of the compost that's in the soil. I just saw a really huge big black beetle, it's beautiful, really, really glossy back, gorgeous. I kind of wanted to take it home and keep it as a pet, but I didn't. I just have it as a pet in the garden. So yes, I'm delighted that those two crops are now in, because that's it in terms of planting. That's it for 2018. Seems crazy, doesn't it? It all started back in February indoors, sowing a few seeds on my windowsills, and ends on a very damp but gorgeous October day. Oh, genius. So now, for the rest of the year, all I need to do, says she, is rejig those beds, which is going to mean a bit of digging. I'm up for it. Hopefully it's the last time I do any major digging. I'll catch up with you again in a couple of days, because I want to talk about wintergreen manure, because there's a change of plan for me this year. But we'll talk about that next time. Because I think now, well, apart from the fact that I've got to clean all my tools because everything is claggy with mud, including me. It's just, look, my fingernails, there's a hole in my glove. Yeah, so I'm just going to have a bit of a tidy up, and then I'm just going to sit for a few minutes, no doubt with a few cats on my lap, and just enjoy the quiet and the birds, and dreaming about what I'll get up to then next time I'm in my gorgeous little oasis of a garden. So, until then, I'm going to say cheerio to you all. I hope you're having fun whatever you're getting up to. I know some of you have kind of gone into hibernation already, so maybe it's not so much the garden at the moment, but seed catalogues, plans for next year, experimenting in the kitchen with all your beautiful stored produce. Whatever it is you're doing, have fun doing it. Take your time, make the most of the moment you're in. I'll see you all again really soon, I hope. But until then, take care of yourselves, everybody. I'm just seeing Rusty out the corner of my eye. Hey, buddy. Yeah, it's time to, you see his tail? It's time to go and have some kitty cat cuddles. Take care.